The Man Who Cared hook. First 5-7 minute suspense. The galaxy was watching. Every screen, every station, every planet. The secret of the SmartPet program was now public, and the man who broke it open was just a mechanic. James sat in a quiet corner of a refugee camp fixing a broken drone when the broadcast began. Human mechanic James Reed exposed illegal alien cloning labs used for trafficking and control. The girl who started it all was still unnamed. She simply calls herself V. Far from the old colony, James and V now lived in a hidden sector, a repurposed station filled with rescued alien girls, now growing, learning, and living free. V stood before a small group of them, teaching them how to speak, read, and laugh. One little girl asked, "Why are we safe now?" V smiled and pointed to James, who was rebuilding an old cooking bot across the room, because he chose to care. That night, James sat by a window, looking out at the stars. V joined him, wrapped in a soft gray blanket. Her silver skin glowed faintly in the moonlight. "You didn't sign up for this," she said softly. James chuckled. "I thought I was buying a pet. Turns out I found a person." V smiled. "Do you regret it?" He looked at her, serious now. "Not even for a second." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "I never thought someone would protect me. Not like that." James wrapped an arm around her. "You're not a thing, V. You never were." Suddenly a soft knock came at the door. Tarn, the boy who once worked in the labs, stepped in with a message tablet. "You two need to see this." He handed it to James. On the screen was an encrypted call from Earth's Galactic Ethics Council. "James Reed, V. You've been nominated to join the Interplanetary Committee for Sentient Rights. Your voices started a movement. We want you to help shape the future." James looked stunned. V whispered, "They want us?" Tarn grinned. "You're not just free anymore, you're leaders." The next day, as the refugee camp gathered under a glowing sky, V stood on a raised platform beside James. She spoke into a simple mic, her voice soft but clear. "We were made in darkness, but someone gave us light, a human, a stranger, who became family." She turned to James. "And because of him, we remember what it means to feel, to hope, to live." The crowd clapped. Some cried. Later that evening, as they watched the sun set over a new world, V asked, "James, why did you care, when no one else would?" James looked at her and smiled. "Because someone had to be the first, and I was tired of fixing machines. I wanted to fix something real." In a far corner of the galaxy, secret labs were burning. Protests rose. Laws changed. The SmartPet program was over, and no one would ever forget the girl who escaped, and the man who cared. The truth about her kind hook. First 5-7 minute suspense. In the dim light of the tunnel, James spotted something strange on V's back, a barcode glowing under her skin. "V, what is this?" She froze. Then, with a heavy breath, she whispered, "It's my serial number. I wasn't born, I was built." The words echoed in James's mind. Built? V sat on the cold metal floor, knees hugged to her chest. She didn't cry. She just stared at the ground like someone who had accepted pain long ago. James knelt beside her. "Tell me everything, please." V closed her eyes. There were others, girls like me. Hundreds, maybe more. We were created in a lab. Part human, part something else. Grown in tanks. Designed to be beautiful, quiet, and obedient. James felt sick. For what? V looked up at him. To replace human women, for those who could afford it. James's face twisted in horror. V continued. They called us smart pets, but we were people. We could think, feel, learn. Some of us even loved. But when they realized we had emotions, they shut us down. One by one. She paused. I escaped before they erased me. James sat in silence. He had bought her, without knowing. He had fed into the very thing she was running from. I'm sorry, he said. But V shook her head. You gave me clothes, food, a name. You didn't chain me like the others did. Then she pulled something from around her neck, a small silver chip. This is the backup, she said. All the data, blueprints, names, the location of the other labs. James looked at it stunned. You've had this all along? V nodded. I was too scared to use it. If they find it, they'll destroy it, but if we reach the right people, maybe we can free the others. Suddenly, they heard a metal groan. The tunnel door behind them was opening. James jumped to his feet. He grabbed a wrench from his tool belt and pulled V behind him. A figure stepped out of the darkness, but it wasn't a soldier. It was a young boy, maybe 12, with a cybernetic eye. He raised his hands. Wait, I'm not with them. James narrowed his eyes. Who are you? I used to clean their labs. I escaped last month. I've seen her before. She was the only one who ever smiled at me. He looked at V. You don't remember me, do you? V stared, then gasped. Tarn? He smiled. You remembered. The boy handed James a small device. This is a map of the nearest smuggler route. It'll take you off-world. But you have to go now. They've sent the enforcers. You won't survive if you stay. V turned to James. We can leave, but we must go to the main facility. If we destroy it, they can't make more of us. James looked at the map, then at her. Then we go together, he said. V took his hand, and for the first time, her voice was full of hope. Thank you for not treating me like a product. Back at the colony, a shadowy man in a military coat stared at a glowing screen. Subject V7 has joined with unknown rebels. She's carrying the master chip. He turned to his team. New orders. Do not kill her. Bring her in alive. The chip is worth more than her life. Return to the lab hook. First 5-7 minute suspense. V stood at the edge of the black cliffs, staring down at the hidden valley. There, beneath layers of hologram camouflage, stood the lab where she had been made, the place where hundreds of her sisters were still locked away. James stepped beside her. You sure about this? She didn't blink. If I run forever, they'll never stop. I have to end it. Using the smuggler map Tarn gave them, James and V traveled through a forgotten mountain pass where no patrols dared to go. They reached a broken elevator shaft that led straight into the underground facility. James checked the jammer. This will only give us 15 minutes of silence once we're in. V touched the silver chip around her neck. 15 minutes to free a species. Inside the lab, the lights were dim. The walls were silver and white, just like in V's nightmares. The smell of chemicals and steel still lingered. They moved silently. James hacked a security panel. V guided him through the corridors. They reached the holding chambers. Rows of glass pods lined the walls. Inside each, a sleeping girl. Some looked just like V. Others had different hair, skin tones, small design differences, but all were young, still, and alive. V whispered, They're in stasis. If we cut power, the system will unlock. But it'll also alert the guards. James nodded. Let's do it fast. He slammed a power conduit open with his wrench. The lights flickered. Siren lights turned red. The pods hissed open, steam rising. One by one, the girls awoke. Some blinked, some screamed. One whispered, Are we free? Footsteps thundered down the hallway. They're coming, James said. Time to fight. He handed V a shock baton. She gripped it tightly. 3 guards entered, fully armed. But they hadn't prepared for V's power. She stepped forward, eyes glowing like lightning. I'm not your pet, she growled. With a single wave, electricity surged from her body. The lights shattered. The guards dropped their weapons, screaming. The hallway exploded in sparks. James and the girls ran. Through the chaos, V led them to the control center. She inserted the silver chip into the main console. The screen lit, up with code. James watched in awe as the system cracked open. Data poured across the display, locations of other labs, creation logs, genetic files. All of it. V pressed upload to public network. A countdown began. Data leak in progress. 90%, 91%. Then, gunfire. An enforcer stormed into the control room, armored head to toe. His voice boomed. Subject V7, step away or he dies. He pointed the weapon at James. James raised his hands. V, don't... But she stepped forward calmly. I'm not afraid of you, she said. The enforcer smirked. You should be. Suddenly, one of the freed girls lunged from behind and jammed a power rod into his suit. Sparks flew. He fell. V looked at her in shock. The girl smiled. You saved me. Now I save you. Upload complete. Signal sent to 300 planetary networks. The truth was out. The world would know. James and the others ran toward the emergency exit. Explosions shook the facility as overload spread through the power grid. One final blast blew the main lab apart. They emerged from the tunnel into the sunlight. Dirty, tired, free. V stood at the edge of the valley again, this time with sisters beside her. James looked at her. What now? She took his hand. We live. In a secret council room across the galaxy, screens flashed red. The truth has been released. The SmartPet project is no longer a secret. Find the girl, find the man. Before others do. Tracking signal detected hook, first 5 to 7 minutes suspense. The toaster exploded. Sparks flew across the kitchen. Smoke poured from the counter. James rushed in, grabbing the fire extinguisher. Behind him, V stared at the ruined appliance, her, hands trembling, eyes glowing faintly blue. I just touched it, she whispered. And it broke. James opened the windows, letting the smoke out. Okay, we're gonna need to talk about that. V looked scared. I didn't mean to. It was just humming, and I wanted to know why. James crouched down beside her. V, things don't just explode unless there's too much power. She held out her hands. Sometimes, I can't stop it. The energy builds up inside. It burns if I hold it in. James stood up and took a deep breath. She wasn't just some escaped alien girl. She was dangerous, but he still didn't want to give her up. Later that night, James ran a diagnostic on his home security system. One file caught his attention. Intrusion alert. Timestamp 02:14 a.m. Source: Internal Tracker ID 8771V. What the hell, he muttered. It wasn't an outside hack. It was something inside his home. A tracker. Broadcasting. He looked at the box she came in. Hidden underneath the padding, deep inside the panel, he found it. A blinking silver disc. The tracker. James immediately pulled out a soldering tool and fried the device. The blinking stopped. He stared at the smoke rising from the melted metal, but it was too late. If someone had been watching, they already knew. He ran back to the living room. V, he said, serious. You were being tracked. They know you're here. V froze. Her lips trembled. They'll take me back. Please, no cage, no needles, no pain. James put a hand on her shoulder. I won't let them take you. She looked at him, her eyes glowing, but not from fear this time, from something else. Trust. Outside, the sky over New Terra Colony looked calm, but a strange humming sound filled the night air. Across the rooftops, a small dark drone floated in silence, its single red sensor blinking. Scanning. The next morning, James took V to his workshop. Okay, he said, pulling out tools. If they're coming, we need to prepare. V tilted her head. Prepare how? He smiled. We make you disappear. Using old cloaking tech, James built a wearable jammer. It wasn't fancy, but it would scramble signals for a short time. V helped him. Her hands were small but precise. She learned fast, like she was born to understand machines. While soldering wires, she paused. James? Yeah? If they find you helping me, they'll hurt you too. James looked up at her. Let them try. That night they heard a sound from above, a ship, not loud. Just a low hum, like a predator gliding in the dark. V stared at the ceiling, her hands clenched. They're here. At that very moment, a figure in a black suit landed silently outside the colony wall. He wore a visor over his eyes and held a scanning device. His voice was cold, mechanical. Target confirmed. Proceed to retrieve subject V7. The human is expendable. Inside, James packed supplies, tools, and the jammer into a bag. We run at first light, he told her. But where will we go? She asked. James zipped the bag and looked at her with calm eyes. Far and fast. Escape from the City Hook. First 5-7 minute suspense. James's house was dark, except for the blinking red dot outside the window. It hovered, unmoving, watching. Then, the door lock clicked open by itself. James grabbed V's hand. Don't speak. Don't breathe. Move. He led her through the back exit, through a hidden service tunnel under the floor, built long ago during colony construction. As they crawled through the dark, V whispered, James, what if we can't run far enough? He didn't answer. He didn't have one. Just 10 minutes earlier, a black ship had landed silently at the edge of the colony. It looked like a flying blade, sleek, fast, and deadly. From it stepped 3 agents in matte armor, faces hidden behind dark visors. Each held a weapon that hummed like coiled lightning. Order confirmed, said the leader. Capture subject. V7. Terminate the human if resistant. Inside James's home, the front door creaked open. The agents entered, but they were too late. The house was empty, except for a still warm teacup on the table. Underground, James and V pushed through, pipes and metal walls. The air was thick and hard to breathe. But James knew these tunnels well. He had repaired them years ago. Now they were his only escape route. Finally, a hatch led to a sewer opening beyond the colony wall. James kicked it open. Fresh night air hit their faces. Above them, the stars looked peaceful. But peace was a lie tonight. They ran through the rocky plains. No lights, no paths. Just dust and the sound of boots crushing gravel. Suddenly, V stopped. I hear them, she said. James listened. Faint, distant, but real. Hover bikes. Fast ones. They're close. James took the signal jammer from his bag and activated it. A faint buzz spread around them, enough to block signals for 30 seconds, maybe less. Run, he said. They sprinted toward the abandoned mining zone, a maze of broken machines and steel towers. It was old, rusted, and forgotten, but it was perfect to hide in. They ducked inside a fallen drilling machine. V was breathing hard. James handed her a small energy bar. Eat. We might have to keep moving all night. She took it, but her eyes were full of fear. James, I don't want you to die because of me. He gave a tired smile. Too late to back out now. Just then, bright lights swept across the mining field. Search drones. They flew low, scanning every crevice. James pulled V closer into the shadows. One drone stopped, right above them. It hovered, buzzed, scanned. V's hands began to glow faintly. Don't, James whispered. It'll detect the energy. She closed her eyes and held her breath. The glow faded. The drone paused, then moved on. They waited for 5 more minutes, unmoving, in silence. Then James said, We move now. Deeper into the tunnel system. They reached a cracked elevator shaft. It led down into the old mining core, a dangerous place no one dared enter. But James had no choice. He looked at V. Are you afraid of the dark? V smiled faintly. Not anymore. They climbed down into the shaft, the light above fading behind them. The air below was colder, thicker, but it meant safety, for now. At the bottom, James sealed the hatch. No signals, no drones. We rest for an hour, he said. V nodded and leaned her head against his arm. You didn't have to save me, she whispered. I didn't have to, James said, but I wanted to. Above ground, the lead agent spoke into his comms. They've entered Zone 9, tunnel systems. Estimated success of pursuit, 30%. A new voice replied, "Do not fail. That girl is not just a runaway, she's proof the experiment worked." The box that moved. James lived a quiet life. He worked as a mechanic on the edge of New Terra, a human colony far away from Earth. His days were slow, filled with machines, wires, and silence. He had no family, no pets, and very few friends. But today was different. Today he was waiting for a delivery. A week ago he ordered a SmartPet from an old website. It was supposed to be an advanced AI pet, something to keep him company. The ad said it could move, talk, and even learn emotions. The price was low, almost too good to be true. But James was bored and lonely, so he took the risk. The door buzzed. James opened it and looked down. A large black box sat on the ground. It was bigger than he expected, too big for a small robotic pet. The delivery label was strange, no return address, just his name in bold white letters. He brought the box inside and placed it on the floor. It was heavy, too heavy. Then it moved. James froze. The box shook once, then again. A soft thump came from inside. Then a sound that made his heart race, a whimper. Someone, or something, was crying. James quickly grabbed a wrench and carefully opened the box. The top hissed as it unlocked. Cold air escaped like a sealed freezer. Inside was a girl, not a robot, not a machine. A real girl. She had pale silver skin, glowing teal eyes, and long dark blue hair. Her clothes were torn. Her knees were pulled to her chest. She was shivering, scared. Her small hands were chained at the wrists with strange glowing cuffs. She looked up at James and gasped. "No hurt. Please," she whispered in broken English. James dropped the wrench. "What the hell is this?" he muttered, stepping back. He didn't understand. This was supposed to be a pet robot, a toy. But here she was, an alien girl, maybe 15 or 16 years old, looking weak and afraid. She wasn't human, but she wasn't a threat either. "Are you hurt?" he asked carefully. She shook her head slowly. James looked around. The windows were closed. No one could see inside. He had no idea where she came from or how she got here. But one thing was clear. She needed help. "Can you walk?" he asked. The girl tried to stand but fell back with a soft cry. Her legs were weak and her body trembled. James reached out his hand slowly. She stared at it for a long second, then took it. He gently helped her out of the box and onto his couch. She winced as she moved, her skin cold like ice. Her clothes looked like they had been worn for weeks, thin and dirty. "What's your name?" he asked. She looked confused. Then in a soft voice she replied, "V." "Okay, V, I'm James. You're safe now." She nodded slowly but didn't smile. Her eyes kept scanning the room like she was afraid someone would come through the door at any second. James went to the kitchen and brought her water and a protein bar. She sniffed both before tasting them. Her face changed. She chewed slowly, like someone who hadn't eaten in days. Her eyes grew wide as she finished the bar. "You were hungry," James said quietly. V nodded again, this time a bit quicker. James had so many questions. Who was she? Where did she come from? Why was she sent in a box, but he didn't want to scare her? Not yet. "I don't think you're a pet," he said softly. She looked up at him and gave the tiniest smile. "No pet," she agreed. Outside, the colony was quiet. But far above, in orbit, a satellite blinked red. A hidden tracker inside the delivery box had sent a signal. Someone, or something, now knew where V was, and they were coming to take her back. The alien girl learns to smile hook. First 5 to 7 minutes suspense. At 2 a.m., James woke up to a strange sound, a soft humming, like static electricity. He followed the noise to the living room and found V sitting on the floor staring at his old tools. but none of them were plugged in, and still, one of the screwdrivers was floating. James rubbed his eyes. "V, what are you doing?" She didn't hear him. Her eyes were glowing faintly, her fingers shaking in the air. A wrench lifted off the table, hovering like magic. Suddenly, the tools dropped with a loud clang, and V collapsed. James ran to her. "V, are you okay?" Her breathing was heavy. Her face was pale. "I didn't mean to," she whispered, frightened. "It just happens." James carried her to the couch again and covered her with a blanket. "It's all right. You're safe here," he said, though his mind raced. Floating tools, glowing eyes. Who was she really? By morning, V was awake and sitting on the edge of the couch. She looked weak but alert. James brought her oatmeal and warm water. She smelled the food first, then took tiny bites. "You made this?" she asked. James nodded. "Not fancy, but it'll keep you strong." She tilted her head, looking at the spoon. "Warm. It feels like home." James smiled a little. "Do you remember your home?" V looked away. "No, only cages, white walls, cold voices." James's heart sank. He didn't push further. Later that day, V walked carefully around the room. She touched books, tools, and screens with deep curiosity. Every little thing amazed her, like a child seeing the world for the first time. She pointed at a photo of Earth. "Is that your world?" James nodded. "Yeah, that's Earth. It looks alive," she whispered. "You've never seen it?" "No, but I've seen the stars." James showed her a video on his tablet, a simple cartoon about a cat and a dog. V's eyes sparkled as the animation played. When the cat fell off the couch and meowed in surprise, she burst into laughter, a small giggle at first, then more. It echoed in the room like sunlight after a storm. James paused. That laugh, it was the first time. He saw her truly feel something. He didn't say a word. He just watched. That night, James stood at the window. The stars above looked normal, but something didn't feel right. His security system beeped again. The alert was the same. Unknown signal source detected. Active. Nearby. He turned it off. But deep down, he knew. Someone was still tracking her. Back. On the couch, V curled up in the blanket. Her voice was soft. "James, why did you help me?" He thought for a second. "Because you needed someone. And I know what it feels like to be alone." She looked at him, eyes wide. "You are kind," she said. James looked down. "Maybe. Or maybe I just hate seeing someone locked in a box." V gave him a warm, sleepy smile, the first real smile he had seen on her face. It was small, but it was real.